Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Wisconsin Revival Show. And I am your host, Dr. David D. King, your next Lieutenant Governor. And I got some people on with me tonight that we're about to have some fun, you guys. And at this time while I'm setting up, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and we always go ladies first. So go ahead.
Well, thank you. I'm Sarah Peliquin. I'm a wife of for 16 years to my best friend Jake, and I've got 5 beautiful children, and one more in heaven. And we homeschool, and we both have a love for our country. We both have a desire to see truth win, and we've been followers of Christ for golly. Well, I was a follower of Christ since I was 5, but I was raised in a Christian home and everything, and so I didn't really come to a full on like all fired. I'm ready to go to the cross for this, until I was in my adulthood, and just realized that God is who He says He is, and that's the only way that this world is going to function the way it should is if it functions under the belief that it is God's universe and He gets to do what He wants with it. So anyway, that's me. I'm a avid lover of history. I wish I could turn my computer on and show you my bookshelf. It's got all of my history books and all of my favorite authors, and just I just am so passionate about telling people the truth of God's word, and also telling them the truth about our history, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, we cannot have just bits and pieces of it told. I just found out today that we learned that in high school AP classes, they completely took out the Holocaust. They took out Abraham Lincoln. They took out the Japanese invasion in America during World War II, and all they left was America is a bad country. And so I can't sit down and be quiet when I see that in our nation, and I want people to know the truth of God and the truth of what this country actually stands for. So that's me.
All right, sir.
I'm Kevin Nutt, and I am a IT guy and an engineer of networking, and I really focus on bringing people back into the middle of things because that's where the solutions lie. And neither side really has a monopoly on the right and wrong answers. And I think that we really need to start questioning some of the narratives that are being pushed on us. And so that's I'm very passionate about that. I love open discussion. Like Sarah's saying, I'm big into history. I think anyone who really wants to get involved at this point in time really has to have a grasp on history and how we got to where we're at right now. And so that's really I try to engage with everyone, and I help with all the different platforms whenever I can. It's no family. I have 2 dogs. One's morbidly obese, as some people would call me, or call the dog. But my other dog is I call him Chocolate Bear and Mayor McCheese, and they're both rescues. I love them, and so that's what keeps me busy between that and my businesses and helping with all the campaigns, And so I'm just happy to be here, and hope everyone has a good time.
Hey, well, you guys, I'm grateful for y'all to be here with me. And somebody said chocolate bear. I'm trying to figure out who said that. Oh, Liz says hello. Oh, and it was Liz that said chocolate bear. Okay.
Yeah. She's looking at me right now like, did you just say something about me?
I wanted to do a show tonight just to have some fun, and we got one more day, and then we into 2022,
Thank
and
you, Jesus.
a lot of things is going to happen in 2022. A lot of things, and so You know, I wanted to go back first to you, Sarah, because you got to talking about history and all the stuff that was taken out of history.
Yeah.
And so when they first brought CRT, you know, blacks thought, oh, they're finna really teach black history, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow. So is they gonna tell the truth about the syphilis experiment? Are they gonna tell the truth about Black Wall Street and what took place? You know, are they really gonna tell the truth about LBJ, his so-called war on poverty, which was war on the black family? You know, I mean, is that the history they talking about they was going to teach?
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, and so a lot of people was like, wow, you know, that's our history, right? So if we're going to tell it the good, the bad, and the ugly, we have to tell it all. You
Yeah.
know, you know, so many people died, you know, at Black Wall Street. You know, I mean, they didn't really have a funeral; they just dug a hole and just threw folks in there. You know, so when you look at all of that and everything, so you know, when we're talking about true history, you know, we're saying, are you really going to tell us true history? Because here's the thing about it, huh? Hold on, y'all. I'm getting interrupted. So Kevin, take over for a second.
Oh yeah, no, I this is one of my favorite sort of aspects of things is, you know, sort of the denial of the narratives as to what history actually was.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it in terms of our society, you know, it's sort of part of the growing pains we're going through. I don't know how many psychology buffs we have watching and whatnot, but you know, I'm big into Jung. And especially his concept of the shadow is something that I really sort of apply to today's age, which, you know, essentially the shadow is that subconscious in all of us that we don't want to admit is there. The evil, good, bad, everything that we don't see in ourselves, but we see reflected in others that we're blind to. And if you think about it, as a society, we're sort of getting to that point where, you know, we're struggling with our past. You know, a lot of these people, they don't want to admit things. So it's better to just erase it rather to confront those things. And what Jung would say is, in order to grow past that into the next level of society, is we have to accept the good parts about us as well as the bad, especially the bad, and then sort of integrate that thing. And I always love to quote Shelby Foote on this, as one of my favorite authors on the Civil War. It would say that, you know, in order for us to really understand what happened with the Civil War and what we became, you have to both look at the light and the dark side of things. And to, like David's saying, you can't just pick and choose what history suits you based on based on what you have or what your narrative is or what you're trying to project as your image. And I think it's just irresponsible, and we really need to open up those dialogues. And you know, like David's saying, good, bad, and the ugly. And so it's all got to come out on the table, and we all need to be okay with it being on the table. And I think the closer we come to that, the better, more enlightened sort of society we're going to become.
And you know, I think one of the things we have bad that we have real bad is, and it's not just with history, it's within each individual. It's like if something go wrong, for example, I use Sarah and her husband, right? Let's say her husband do something he ain't got no business, right? So now it's time for them to deal with it. And he says to her, oh, that was the past. Let's just leave that alone and let's move forward. Well, you can't move forward until you go back and say, you know, this was wrong, right? So when we look at America, right, it's nothing wrong with America because America is the ground, okay? It's the land. What's wrong is the system. The government system is what's wrong. Nothing wrong with America. Nothing wrong with the ground. Nothing wrong with the land. It's the world system that we live in is what's messed up. And if we understand that, then what we also have to do is we have to take responsibility that is all of our fault.
Yeah.
It's our fault because why? We relaxed and we allowed things to happen and we were like, oh, that ain't gonna hurt. You notice every time we say something is not gonna hurt, or it's nothing wrong with it, or it's not. It's just like smoking cigarettes. On the side of the pack, it says hazardous to health, right?
Yep. Yep.
It says it on there, and we're like, oh, that's just something. It ain't really nothing. Now you got lung cancer, and you be like, oh, it wasn't from the cigarettes. But then where did it come from then?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think the other thing is we, you were saying, Kevin, about the idea that we can't look at ourselves as basically good or basically evil. We're not either, right? We have both good and evil within us because we are humans. We are created in God's image, and so we have that image of him, that character of him in us, but we also have the free will to choose.
Yes.
And so we can choose to be good or evil. And if we reject the notion that there is a higher power, a higher authority than us that creates an objective truth, a moral truth, then it is very easy to slip into the logical outworking of that, well, I can do whatever I want because I make the rules, right? If we don't have an external rule maker, then we become the rule maker, and that never ends well. So yeah. So when we have people who are writing history and they're like, well, you know what? I don't agree with that part of history, so I'm just going to write it out of the textbook. That's exactly what we're seeing in our culture, is that we don't like something. It makes us feel bad. It makes us feel convicted, whatever it is. And we just write it out of the story. And that is no way to actually deal with things. I mean, I've got close family members who've literally told me it hurts too much to deal with the pain of the past, so I'm going to just focus on the good things I remember. Well, okay, that's great. But then you've got this open, gaping wound that hasn't been debrided, and it's rotting underneath, and it's not healing. So that's what the state of our culture is we have an open, gaping wound, and it's not systemic racism. It's not all of these other things that the left wants to tell us. And it's not that the left is completely at fault, like the right wants to say. It's we've got this gaping wound of the lack of responsibility and taking the responsibility for our own consequences of the choices we make. And it is rotting us out from the inside.
Yeah, no, I'm sure Jung would agree with that. He would say that the longer the shadow goes unintegrated with oneself, the stronger and darker it becomes.
Yeah.
And then it slowly seeps out and expresses its way in a negative fashion where, as a society, we need to sort of sublimate that and transition. Yes, exactly how you're saying. The pain of the past is not unbearable.
Yeah.
You might not like it, but it is there regardless of whether or not you accept it or not. So I fully agree that, that's sort of the downside to the narratives right now, because neither side wants to admit to that. And if you think about it, as a society, as volatile as the reaction is between the right and left, I mean, it's almost like magnetic opposites.
Yeah, but they're really two sides of the same coin, because they've both fallen off of their, I should say the left is probably stuck to their principles, because they started out with the principles of, we'll just pro-choice and all of these things that guide the left's principles, but the right has fallen off of their principles: freedom, liberty, personal responsibility. And that's almost worse, because at least the left is being, I guess you could say, intellectually honest about what they're doing now. They're like, well, this is the logical outworking of where we started, so we're just going with it. Whereas the right is saying, well, no, we're gonna have to do it a different way, because that was the old way, and we're just not gonna, it's not gonna work. Or we're gonna just be really nice, but we're not gonna stand on the principles that got us started in the first place, right? And that was, we were the revolutionaries who started the Revolutionary War. We were the revolutionaries who started the Civil War to end slavery. And here we're sitting back and saying, well, I guess we can have pro-life as long as it doesn't count for this small subset of people. They can still choose, and we make allowances, we make compromises. And I think that's almost in some ways worse, because we're not supposed to compromise on the truth. When God says life is sacred, it means from conception to death. Like, that doesn't change just because of the situation in which that life came about. So Yeah,
You know,
I'm almost afraid the compromise part on the right side is worse.
it is worse. It's worse because of the fact that, um, my mom used to say it like Kevin. There's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. All right, and in the middle, always you'll find the truth in the middle. And so when you have one group is just saying, "Oh, you can live any kind of way you want to live. We're going to go against the will of God. We're going to make laws so you can feel good about that lifestyle. Don't worry about that lifestyle." They forgot Romans 6:23 that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. So what they say is, what we're going to do is we're going to just fix it so you can feel good about it. We're going to make it legal.
Yeah.
All right. But then you got the other side that says, wait a minute now. I like to say it this way. Our biggest enemy is our last success. Okay. And so what they say is, well, we freed the slaves. Okay, you stuck right there. Let's move on down the road. Let's move on down the road where you won't even spend money in a race that you feel that you guys can't win, because why? It doesn't line up with the agenda. Both parties forgot about the people. They both got agenda. Yeah. They both has an agenda, and that agenda doesn't deal with people. Because here's the thing about it, and I hate to say it like this, but truth is truth. When you have two parties where God is not the center, then pride, power, and money is at the center. And when you have two playing chess, right? And they're trying to win the chess game. And it's about who can lie on who, because I know you guys get emails like I get them, and how the right is saying the left is so evil, but we need you to donate so we can do this and we can. Yeah. But it doesn't talk about what we as the people are saying. It don't say nothing about CRT. It doesn't say nothing about medical freedom. It doesn't say anything about shrinking the government. It's just we got to beat that side. And that side saying, oh, we got to beat you. So we the people, we that third team, we're going to say, you know what? We're going to turn this into a stalemate. And we're not going to allow you guys to do anything anymore because your agenda is not lining up with ours, and we're sick of the lies. We're sick of you lying on each other, because that's all it is. They're lying on each other. Whoever can scare you the most, whoever can upset you the most, whoever can make, they never. And here's the thing about it. Have you noticed lately that who said 13? Somebody been listening to me. Let me say who said that.
Oh, that's Liz. That's Liz there.
Yep, that's Liz. We're the third team. Somebody been listening to me. Okay, but the thing about it is this, though, you guys. When we look at it, and this is why we're doing this, because we can't go into 2022 with the same dumb stuff that got us stuck in the past. So when you look at it for what it really is, right? Yeah. And you look at it and say, all of the elections have always been won on who can dump on who the most.
Yeah. With the least amount of energy too. It's like it's laziness,
Yeah.
Right.
I blame Twitter.
That's where all the lazy people go.
Yeah, relegating every thought we have to 240 characters. Oh my gosh. And the ideas we engage in are pages and volumes long. It just does nothing service or justice.
I eventually got off of Twitter because I cannot stand it when I can't have a discourse with people.
Come on. Did you get off of Twitter or did you get banned like I did?
No, I actually got off of it I was
voluntary. Okay, all right.
Part of me was thinking I should just stay on until they ban me because I'm just going to keep talking. But it just drives me nuts. I'm a writer, and so I cannot put a thought about about the Constitution in 240 characters. It's just like,
well, here's the thing. Start you a video, because right now this video is on Twitter.
There you go.
So it's on Twitter, and
Twitter.
we have to be that light on Twitter. We have to be that light on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We have to get to that place where we're letting people know, enough is enough of this stuff. You're not going to win the election by talking. I told people all the time, I'm not gonna. You never hear me talk bad about anybody. I tell you, I like them all. I'll tell you, I don't see them as leaders, but I don't go into talking bad about them. Why? Because I don't. It's like me and Kevin, right? Me and Kevin in the bar, and we see you, Sarah, in the bar. I'm not gonna come to you and try to put Kevin down. I'm trying to tell you why I'm the good guy and why you should be with me, right? Kevin is not gonna come to you and talk about you don't need to be with that man. Kevin gonna tell you what he's bringing to the table, right? And so, and you make your decision what man you want to talk to based off of what we bring into the table, right?
Oh yeah.
That's how
it immediately shuts me down the moment somebody starts talking bad about the other team, even if it's somebody I absolutely despise. I'm like, I don't want to hear what they've done bad. I want to hear what you are going to do to change the country. Like, I don't want to hear their agenda because I know their agenda. I can get it just going onto their webpage. Right. I want to hear what are you doing to actually be different from every other politician up at Capitol Hill. Like, I don't care what other than that. What are you prove yourself to me, you earn my respect.
And that's why I tell people, okay, let me see, who is that? Thanks, Mary. Okay, you're voting for pastor. I like that in you. Liz says, I love that, Sarah. So that's Liz talking. So we're gonna be throwing them up. But listen, what I'm saying is this. I always tell people, do your homework. Check out my resume. I ain't got time for nobody else. I don't have time to put energy trying to dump on somebody else when I already know what my resume says about me. Okay, that's why I said that, and that's why I always thank Kevin, because Kevin brought stuff back to my memory because I've been doing it for so long I don't even remember them. But Kevin went and did when you say research, Kevin did research. He found videos of interviews that I did that I forgot all about. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did you get that? Yeah. So and this is what we got to go into 2022 about. We got to go in and do a homework on everybody to see who is the best fit. Not you know what? I can't even stand negativity. I don't care if it's coming from the right, throwing it on the left. I don't care if it's the left throwing it on the right. Yeah. Because all you doing is this. I grew up in a house with 6 boys, okay? The only time when I throw dirt on one of them is when I got dirt on me and I need the attention off of me. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way. But if I'm getting in trouble, my mom knew I did something. I'm like, and I'll be naming them. But Dennis did this and Ellis did this. So I'm starting to name. Why? Because to me, what they done is worse than what I done. So I want that attention on them. You see what I'm saying? So when we look at things going into 2020, we're going in not sleep. We're going in alert.
Doesn't that go back to what you said, Kevin, about the laziness? Like we're you're just it's laziness on the part of the voters too, because the voters are just like, well, I'm going to listen to what he says about the other person. I'm going to listen to what he says about the other person or she or whatever, and then then make my decision. But I'm not going to pick up the actual. I'm not going to look on the webpage and find out what their platform is. I'm not going to go up to them and ask them, what kind of a government do we have? What kind of government did the founders want?
You already did that.
I know, exactly. That's what I want to know. And so it's just like, but we citizens, we have gotten so lazy, and it takes the responsibility off of us. I remember, when Obama was being voted in, I remember so many people telling me that they were voting for him because he was Black. I'm like, okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. But what does he stand for? Because I don't care about the color of his skin. I want his integrity. I want to know what his character is. I want to know how he acts as a father, because that's going to tell me how he's going to model the greatest position in the United States for the people in the United States, so all of these things, I'm going to ask those types of questions, and I don't pull punches. But it is so.
If you don't ask them, Sarah, if you don't ask them, your husband will.
Yes, exactly. Well, and it's so, we do that with our kids. You ask the hard questions, and I get really tough questions from my kids, but I'm not going to shy away from them because, honestly, we are all a bit hypocritical because we're humans. We make mistakes. We do crummy things. We treat other people with lack of respect, whatever. There are so many different things, but I'm going to take responsibility for my choices. And if I do not sit there and interrogate each of those candidates and find out what they stand for and find out if they're going to represent me, then it's on me, not on them, if they get into office and don't know what they're doing.
Well, and it's been going on so long that, I mean, most people, they're so invested in things. It's like, that's one of the rules of the con, is that the more someone's invested in things, the more the harder it is for them to pull away from that, because it's looking in that mirror and saying, I maybe made some bad decisions, or I supported the wrong people. But regarding Obama, I grew up in Illinois and Chicago, and right away I said, no, we don't let our politicians get to the national level, because like the last 6 governors are all in prison. So it's one of the most
keep them in
states.
Illinois, right?
Yes, no, that was my fear with Obama, is just, man, he's just we don't need to let him get that far. I mean, you just know he's corrupt when he gets there, and it's but it happened, and then we got into Trump, and everyone just got into these narratives and fighting with each other. I don't even think most people realize it when they start engaging with each other, the things that they're saying. They've been going so long that it's my mother used to say this. You don't say certain words, because once you get used to saying it, you don't even realize you're saying it when it happens. And it's going to take patience. It's going to take a lot of patience. And hearing people out and giving them exits out of things. I always tell people when they ask me, well, what if someone asks you this question or about that? It's like, let them speak. They might not have the right take on things, but you can tell them till you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean they're going to all of a sudden change their mind about things, because people only realize things when they're meant to. And I think, but collectively, like, people are really exhausted of this. I mean, it's cost us money. It's cost us friends. It's cost us family. I don't know how many people that I grew up with that I would literally, if they called me, I would be there. That won't even talk to me anymore because we had a difference of opinion on something. And it's like, these things shouldn't matter. What matters is our friends. What matters is our family. And what matters is our community. And we need them far more than we ever needed any of these elected officials. And that's really, I mean, I think people are coming around to that, and it's just no one's ready to say it.
And you're absolutely right, because I had a brother, one of my brothers, he lived in California, so where I'm going with this one.
Sure.
He lived in California, and he told me, we're not brothers no more. And I kept calm, and I said, listen, no matter how you feel, whether we talk or not, we came out of the same womb. We're gonna always be brothers. And so so when you look at everything that's going on, is this. I was taught to stand on what I believe. Okay. And that's why I tell people all the time, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, because telling you what you want to hear is not going to, we can run around the whole state and say, we love America, right? And we can run around the whole state and holler, we're here for freedom. And we can run around and says, we love our guns and all the stuff that we want to hear. But after that over, after the emotion part is over, what's the vision for Wisconsin? How do we want to see Wisconsin? And how are we going to get there? Because we can shout all day long, but when the shout is over, it's just like a marriage, right? You're excited for the wedding day. You totally excited wedding day. Every eye's on you on the wedding day, right? Then you got the reception. Every eye on you guys, and you're dancing, and all of a sudden, then you leave and go on a honeymoon. But then now you leave the honeymoon and come back home. Now you're married. You didn't know his feet stink, but now they stink. You didn't know that she didn't like cleaning, and she'll cook, but she don't want to clean. All the real stuff, right, is out there, unless you gave everything in the beginning. You let them know my feet stink, and she said, well, I don't like cooking. Okay, that's fine. I'll cook. You clean. Like my wife cook and do dishes. I do laundry. She don't like doing laundry. I love doing laundry. I have no problem doing laundry, right? But we knew all of that in the beginning. So if I ain't cooking, even though I know how, if I'm not cooking, it's not a surprise. If she ain't doing the laundry, it's not a surprise, right? Because after all the excitement is over with, now you got to live with this person. Right? And now you got to be able to, how do we handle conflicts? Do we communicate? Are we communicating? Right? You know, we can talk at each other during the campaign, but when the campaign is over, where's the communication? Are we still there? Do we still understand what needs to be done? Or did you just use the honeymoon and the marriage ceremony just to say you married, but now you don't want the responsibilities? Okay, because the marriage part you promised to take care of, right? You promised to provide, you promised to protect, right? So on the campaign trail, we're promising to fight for freedom. We're promising. So after the wedding is over, are you going to do what you say you're going to do? And this is why we're in the mess we're in. We allow them to date us. We allow them to marry us. We allow them to take us on the honeymoon through the campaign. Soon as the campaign was over.
Yep. It's almost like every topic they talk about is just some subset item that they take off the shelf every 2 to 4 years just to stir us up. And I can't accept that anymore. And, you know, I miss being normal. I miss just not being at each other's throats over everything. And, you know, and these people don't care about us. You know, we were literally burning as a country and none of them would even spit on us, you know, and I think that speaks a lot. And especially when they fuel things, they want to throw more gas on the fire. I especially liked it out in Portland when that mayor, he's all pro Antifa, and then he showed up to show his support, and they booed him. I said, "Oh, you got that coming," you know, and because they don't even have control of these people.
No.
You know, it's just they're riding that wave because that's where they think they're headed, and but that's a problem on both the right and the left. You know, my most recent one, I'm always trolling her on Twitter, is this cat fight between Lauren Boebert and Ilhan Omar. And it's like they want to talk about how horrible each other. And my question is, okay, show me the policy. What have you guys done in your term? They're already asking for re-election donations. It's like, okay, what did you do the first time? And oh no, it's because they're mean. And it turns it into a mean girls club. Meanwhile, we're the ones footing the bill and we're the ones suffering. You know, I mean, what's happening in the cities right now with these kids, you know, they want to get on the bandwagon about school shootings, but they don't want to talk about the kids in the neighborhoods getting gunned down in the crossfire. And that's the future, you know. And
you know, we have shifted in 20 years because in 20 years, in 2001, right? We was hollering, it's not about black, white, rich, poor. It's about just being an American after 9/11, right?
Yep.
And now we're so divided. We came together as a country, as a nation. And now we're so divided that we forgot about how united we came. You know, everybody was a patriot at that moment. Everybody was all on. We are the greatest country in the world. You know, we prayed for one another, the families that lost their loved ones, and all of that. And now, them same people we vowed to fight with, we're fighting.
Absolutely.
And they really, I mean, both sides really capitalized on that fear after 9/11. So we had that coming together and that kumbaya kind of moment. But you like, I remember for the longest time it was, we will never forget it. Just like back in the Holocaust time, we will all, you know, always remember, never forget, all of these catchphrases. But underneath the surface, you could see the people in government, the politicians were starting to use that. They were starting to pull at different threads to really bring out the chaos and bring out the fear, as a taking that opportunity to just undermine, and that's really where it is. And I mean, Abraham Lincoln talked about how we're not going to be taken out from the outside. We're a pretty strong country. We know to defend ourselves from the outside. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be destroying ourselves from the inside.
Yeah,
And
we're going to be just like Rome.
yeah.
Rome
Do
was
their work
destroyed
for
from
'em.
the inside.
Yeah. Well, every empire falls from the inside. They don't fall because really the conquering of empires comes about because they had already fallen on the inside. And there was, I mean, this is where you get all of the stories in history of these empires, these grand dynasties, and every one of them, it started long before the conquering armies came in and rolled over them.
Right. And then when you look at Rome, right? Rome had a cancer, and that cancer was immorality.
Yeah.
12 of the 14 emperors were homosexuals. So what's the cancer in America right now? Immorality. So if we don't cut this cancer, then we're going to be just like Rome.
Yeah.
Well, and we've got, and you see it happens twofold, and this is just me talking here, is that in order for hope to occur in a society, you have to have a past to compare yourself against, good or bad. But how do you know where you've come along the way unless you can look back and say, at least we're not that anymore?
Yeah.
And then mentioning what I mentioned about the kids in the cities, the kids represent the future. And in order to have hope, you've got to have a past to compare yourself and a hope in a future to look forward to. And they're letting them get gunned down in the street, or they're neglecting them in our schools, not teaching them history. They want to make them victims. They want to make them dependent. And I completely understand where so many people are feeling hopeless in the situation. But that to me is dangerous, because it's like, if you've ever seen someone drown, or someone who's drowned, they grab at everyone and sort of, the way to help someone who's drowning is you got to sort of let them drown. And once they tire out, because if they're grabbing at everything and taking swings at everything, they're going to drag you down too. And then no one can save anyone, because you're the rescuer is now the victim, and that's why I mean, it just takes patience. And we've got to just keep in mind that these are our friends and our neighbors, and really look at just the positive in them. I always live by the phrase, you can always trust a dishonest man to be dishonest. And what that means is just, if someone's dishonest, it doesn't mean there isn't silver lining to them. You just don't rely on them for that sort of thing. They still have value. And that's where I think people really need to step back, and yes, we're different, but on these things we agree, and we can build off of that to come to some sort of happy medium. And that's going to take a lot of the pressure out of the pot. And and now if you really, what really irks me about the most of it is we have an entire generation of kids now. And this has been going on 10, 12 years. Think of how many kids have gone from 10 years old. Now they're adults. This is all they know. And that's real sad to me. And I count myself fortunate to be a 90s kid, because regardless of getting in trouble, it wasn't that bad. And then it's like how David was saying, it's like we came out of 9/11, and then as soon as we hit 2008, 2009, and I'm not saying anything right or left on that, it's like we all just, took off our gloves and, just thumbed our nose at each other. And it's kind of funny I talk about this. It all started with thigh gap and pit bulls, and on social media. And then it's sort of like these companies figured out that, that people were fighting over these menial things, like someone stole their lunch money or slapped their mother. And it's like, it doesn't matter. A good example, I was at a fire department. I was on a fire department for a number of years. And I realize this now, how this came across was they were talking about Under Armour apparel. And I sort of like, for what they're charging for it, it's kind of cheap. And all three of these ladies jumped on me like I just stole their bike. And I told them, and it didn't click on me then. What they were associating was because I thought those were cheap. That was me saying that they were cheap.
They were cheap, yeah.
And it's not what I was saying at all. Yeah. They want to project themselves onto it, like, sort of throwing themselves on the spear, so to speak. Yeah. And it's like, well, why are you martyring yourself for a bunch of people who just want to make money off you? Or in this case, with politics, just want to maintain their own name and power.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not worth it to me. Not anymore.
I mean, we take up the offense for other people so easily, and for circumstances, or for I hate to. Well, I love it because we're going back into history. This whole CRT stuff, and we were founded on slavery. We're taking up offenses for people who are no longer even alive, and they went through the suffering. They actually were enslaved. I had a grandfather who fought in the Northern Army to free slaves, and he got wounded in the war. And I'm not sitting there thinking about him all the time, thinking, oh well, he should have done more. He should have been less, whatever. No, he almost gave his life for this cause, and the people on both sides who they all had different ideas of it, and we knew one thing at the heart of it. Even our founding fathers knew that slavery was wrong, that enslaving human beings. That's why we fought the Revolutionary War, because we no longer wanted to be enslaved. And so this was the first nation that ever actually stated in their founding documents that all men are created equal. That had never been stated before in any other constitution, in any other government organization. There was never that. It was monarchies and tyrants and all of these things saying, nope, you're my serfs, you're my slaves. And America said, no, that's not how this works. We are going to look at the scriptures. We're going to look at what God stated. He made us all in his image, black, white, red, brown, whatever. And we are all free under him. And so government was established in America to protect and defend those rights. And it took us a while to finally, what did Frederick Douglass say? That they were finally cashing in on that promissory note in the Declaration of Independence, right? Finally, it took us a while to get it through our thick skulls, but we got there, and we were still working to make that our founding principles, knowing that, and that was what the founders knew, was that they were basing their governance, they were basing all of their ideas and stuff on the idea that human nature is flawed. It is not perfect. And so we aren't going to get it all right all at once. They were just starting a brand new nation, that we're not going to get all of the pieces in place, but they set it up in such a way that generations could take it from where they left it and make it better and make it better and make it just a little bit better. Right. And we're missing that in our culture because we've gotten into this is the here and now. This is all that there is. There's no past. There's no future. We're just going to stay right here. And so we're not going to learn from our past, and we're not going to better our future because all we have is the present. And that's such a short-sighted view of our world.
Pretty bleak.
Right. And it's like we're living for just right now, not the future, not our kids, and as you was talking about that, when you were talking about CRT, I go back when I think about CRT, I go back to Greek philosophy, because the Greeks were saying if your nose is pointy, if your hair was straight, you was born to rule. Yeah. And and if you was dark skinned like me and your nose was wide like mine, you was born to be slaves. You're supposed to be are supposed to be people, be the oppressed, be oppressed, right? Yeah. Because that was their philosophy. And so CRT is saying the same thing. All because of this, you're supposed to be oppressed. The devil is a lie. I know who I am in God, right? Yeah. And so when we look at it, and when we look at it from the here and now, right? We have people, even today, people that are believers, they'll just say, oh, we under grace now, so forget law. No. Grace helps you get back in the right standing with God. The law is not gone nowhere. Jesus said, I didn't come to throw away the law, but to fulfill it.
Yeah.
You know, but what we do is we be like, oh no, we under grace now. So guess what? You're telling me grace is giving you a pass to go in politics and cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And grace giving you a pass to be in politics and lie. And grace is allowing you a pass to serve two masters.
Yep.
No, it doesn't work like that.
I would say they
turn
haven't
us against each other in order to hold on to that. It's amazing that these people have actually built careers on this. And that's why there's no incentive for them to speak a positive message. I mean, they want David to think that when I look at him, the first thing in my mind is the color of his skin, not that he's this guy that I have respect for and that has this pretty long and impressive past of, you know, just civil outreach and doing community involvement and trying to speak a positive message and set an example. They don't want him to think that. No. And true the same, they don't want him to look at me. They just go, oh, he's a crackling white Irish kid. That's all he's doing, you know. Throw him a bottle of whiskey.
Wait. Did you say crackling?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But that's what they want us to think about each other, and they want us to be as shallow as the narratives that they are projecting.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, there's just more to it. It's just there's so much into different people, and I love hearing the stories of different people and knowing more about them. And the fact that this is where we start. It just because we started somewhere does not mean that we're predestined. That's where we're going to finish. Yeah. And I think people have just lost that. Yeah. And they so where they don't want to try. And that's what worries me about this generation coming up is they don't know anything better. They have been constantly told what to think, what to feel, how to eat. Oh, if you're not on this diet, you know, that's it's all about projections to make someone feel bad about themselves. And it's like, man, celebrate your life, you know, celebrate your the person next to you. Well, you know, we're all on our way to the graveyard, you know, we better start doing it sometime.
The two absolutes in life, death and taxes.
Oh man. I could live without one of those.
I know.
and you know, you're absolutely right, because here's the thing about it. When we look at where we at right now, and you got a group that thinks for themselves, and then you got a group that allow other people to think for them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got to put this up here. So when you got that group that don't think for themselves. Mm-hmm. All it takes is us to give them some time and try to build a relationship with them and says, what do you want out of life? And you know what? This is all of us, though. This is all of us. I teach this in relationships, right? Watch this. If somebody asks you, what do you like? Right? And you say, I like fishing. Where did that come from? Well, it came from, I was hanging with my daddy and we finished. Yeah. Okay, but tell me something else you like. Mm-hmm. Well, I like football. Why do you like football? Well, my husband liked football. Okay, that's where that comes from. So what do you really like? And you got to stop and say, wait a minute, what is it that I really like? Yeah. Because most of the stuff that we like and that we're doing, we got it from somebody else. Yeah. Right? So I asked a question. Here's the question. I ask people, who are you? Right? And most time they give me their occupation. I didn't ask you what you do. I said, who are you? And then I asked them another question. Do you like who you become? Mm-hmm. And then if you can't answer who are you, then how can you answer you like what you become? Because a lot of us, we don't. Yeah. You know, you got, let's take women for an example. You got women that been raised in a house and been doing what mom and daddy said all their lives, and then they got married. Yeah. Right? Yep. So they never been themselves to really enjoy life. Now they automatically become a mom and a wife. So they really haven't had a chance to find themselves. They just going through these roles. But what is it that a person like? So our younger generation, and Kevin, you say the 90s, you really make me feel old now because I'm the 70s and 80 baby. You know, I grew up in the 70s, so you know, I'm like, what's going on? But in the 70s, right? We had opportunities just to dream, to be whatever we wanted to be, right? We saw Lone Ranger, right? And Tonto, right? But did you, I did not know until I got grown that the original Lone Ranger was a black man. I didn't even know that. I was sitting there like, what? It blew my mind, right? So I'm sitting there like, all the stuff that I grew up on, right? And then you find out later the real original story, where it all come from, right? Yeah. So I grew up watching Lone Ranger. I grew up watching Bruce Lee and Green Hornet and Kato and Batman and Robin and we still really didn't know where babies come from because the shows we saw on TV, the mom and daddy slept in separate beds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and no one used the bathroom.
Right. No one Nobody. So I come from a generation where even in a black culture, right? Let me show you this. In the black culture, we grew up watching Good Times, where they grew up in the Chicago projects. Mm-hmm. To the Jeffersons, who started a business, got out of the projects, to the Huxtables, where you got mama and daddy professionals.
Yep.
To this crazy stuff they call love and hip hop.
Yeah.
You went from growing to a U-turn to say, nope, let's go back. Don't think for yourself, just be like everybody else. Yeah. I mean, look. You thought a wife was, what's her name? June Cleaver?
June Cleaver, yeah.
Yeah, you know, she stayed home and took care of the family, and the daddy wouldn't work. And when you got in trouble, here come daddy to correct everything. So we learned mom was grace, daddy was law. Mm-hmm. Right? So you grew up with all of this, and to the fact now with the help of LBJ, daddy ain't no good. Daddy's no good. Daddy don't need to be in the house. Daddy don't need to be here.
And they incentivified it too.
Huh?
They incentivied it too with the welfare. They deliberately destroyed the black family unit. And that's absolutely. Keep going, David. I didn't mean to.
No. I mean, and you look at it though. You say, get rid of the man, make his role less important, flash the money to the woman, make her more independent, because women was dependent on their husbands. They depend on their husband for security, not just providing, but security, because man's is the foundation of the family. So if the foundation is not right, the family is not going to be right.
And that shouldn't be threatening to a woman. It shouldn't be threatening that the man who is usually the physically stronger person is the one who's the defender and protector of the home. This is something that I learned. So, you know, the verses in the Bible that talks about wives submit to your husbands, a lot in the churches that I grew up in, they kind of stopped there and they didn't go past that verse. And so I learned this idea of submissiveness being you're the doormat, you are barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, and that's all you are.
I'm so glad you said that and not me. I'm so glad you said that.
That's what the woman here is for, right? But I had somebody in college talk to me about the lie of that. In the original Genesis, where it talks about God creating the woman and he created a suitable helper for his husband. A lot of women in my denomination were taught that suitable helper meant a helpmate, a doormat, right? And all of these things. The two words are ezer kenegdo. That means basically warrior woman. That means a woman of valor. That means I'm the shield maiden for my husband. So I'm the shield maiden. That means I'm the one who is protecting him from the darts and arrows of the enemy, while he is the one with the sword going out and charging the enemy for us.
Yep.
Why is that something to be threatened by? Like, why should I as a woman be threatened by the fact that my husband is the stronger man, the breadwinner, the protector and defender of my home? I'm just as I was gonna say a phrase, but it's probably not appropriate. I am just as powerful as he in a different way. God made us different, and that is a good thing.
Well, you have to look at it this way. The Bible says God saw Adam and he says, not good that man be alone. So I'm going to make him a suitable helpmate.
Yes.
That means she is just as qualified to help carry the load with him. You know, it doesn't. But I think a lot of times when you hear the word submit, it's turned bitter in everybody's life. I'm not submitting to nobody. Even a baby don't submit.
Yeah.
You can tell that baby sit down, and that baby will say no. And you say to that baby again, sit down. That baby say no. You say you don't sit down, I'm gonna pop you. That baby will sit down and still say no. Because that baby letting you know I was not born to be controlled. And when a husband and wife come together, that's not controlling. That's complimenting one. That's why I always tell people, don't tell your wife that she makes you whole, because then you telling her you have.
Yeah.
You know, tell her that she compliments you. You know, tell her that she's there to compliment you. She's not there to make you whole, because if you're not a whole man by yourself, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's where a lot of people get confused, you know, with that. Is like when you enter into a relationship, you should be already a complete person.
Yeah.
Because that's how are you going to love someone when you can't love yourself? How are you going to complete someone when you're not yourself completed? Mm-hmm. You know, if you're not whole and you give up half of yourself, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
There's a deficit there.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, you know, we miss out on so much when we don't understand that those complementary things, that the wife should submit to her husband, and then the husband should love his wife and give himself up as Christ gave himself up for the church. That's another form of submission right there. It's just a different type, and we're both complementing one another in those relationships. That was something that just like I'm teaching my daughters. You are not going to be fulfilled with any man in this world. They are human. They are flawed. They're going to disappoint you.
Well, my mom says I'm perfect. So
you've got a unique mom then.
you know, I asked the men, are you the thermostat or the thermometer in your house?
Ooh.
And if you are the thermometer, you're in the wrong place. You need to be the thermostat. Because a husband got to show how the wife's supposed to be loved, right?
Yeah.
So the kids learn love on how the husband loved his wife, right? Yeah. But watch this. The children also learn submission, because if the husband is loving the wife, she has no problem submitting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so in this process of a society is where some men use this phrase a lot, and I can't stand this phrase, but I'm gonna use it. I can't stand it. I'm letting y'all know now. I can't stand it. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
A happy wife is a happy life.
Yes.
No, I can't stand that. This is what I say. A happy spouse, a happy house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go.
Because you both got to be happy.
Yep.
You know how many men done just try to make their wife happy but never say anything? So on the inside, they can't. They're resenting their wives. They can't, you know. And this is why both got to be. You know, it's his job for the rest of his life to make her happy, and it's her job for the rest of her life to make him happy. So we both has an opportunity. Oh
yeah.
You know, Liz says something, right?
That's the firebrand right there.
There you go. Men should love their wives. Women should respect their husband.
There we go.
And you know, that is so true. And if the man loves his wife, she has no problem respecting him.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has no problem. And I always tell people, and I tell men this, I say, listen, you guys, you the foundation, right? So God gives you the vision. But you don't build the house. You give that vision to your wife and let her build.
That sort of makes us men sound lazy, you know.
But actually,
There's all this good stuff. Go build something.
but you know, that's and some problems in marriages is a man doesn't get a vision. He don't have a vision because he's not connected where he's supposed to be connected to God. And his wife goes build because she's going to build. Women is going to build regardless, right?
Very true.
So now he's upset because she's building.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
That was good, David.
Why, thank you. But it's that. So what happened was this: the government, and I said all that to bring it back to LBJ. He understood if I remove the foundation, because what do a widow and an orphanage has in common?
They're both protected by God.
Okay, that's a good one.
Widow and an orphanage. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. The widow and orphans, what they have in common is they both lost their foundation.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
And that's why God tells us to take care of the orphanage and the widows.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that foundation. They're fatherless and she's husbandless. That foundation is gone. So it's up to us to help restore family. It's up to us to encourage our young men that, you know, God put you here as a man to be the forerunner, to be that one up front, to be that example to children on how to live, how to love, how to protect, how to provide, how, you know, everything comes. That's why it says for the father to teach your child. So it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart. Well, religious folks only says that about church, but it's talking about life. Train them up. Train them how to write to start a bank account and to save money. Train them how to fix a sink. Train them how to fix on the car. Train them how to go to work and work hard. Give them work ethics, because when they're old, they will not depart from those things.
Yep. Make it a habit. And that's one thing that drives me nuts is the lack of work ethic, and people are just too easy to give up on things these days. As soon as they hit a roadblock, it's, oh, no, I'm just going to change my whole direction. And all this time I've invested getting to this point just means nothing at this point. But society also makes them feel that way as well. You know, that's because it might not work out with the narrative and what public at large says. That's right. You know, people should focus more on doing them rather than trying to do the rest of the world, you know, in what they want.
And you know why? Because the society has taught us to make permanent decisions on temporary problems.
Yep. Instead of like what does every inventor have in common from the past 200-300 years, or since inventing came into be, right? They had to try multiple times with the wrong things to get it right. I'm not necessarily like supporting Elon Musk or not supporting him, but I was watching his when he was doing the rocket launches, right? And there were several rocket launches where like something blew up or it didn't land correctly or whatever. And he's like, okay, but that wasn't what we were focusing on. And everybody was freaking out because, oh my gosh, we're never sending somebody up in one of those. No, that wasn't the point. He was testing different aspects. So the landing wasn't what he was trying to stick that time. It was another element of the project. And so we saw the crash and everybody freaked out. That wasn't the point of the project. And that wasn't the point of his, that particular plan. And so when we, you know, when I talk to my kids, my husband and I, we talk to them about, you're going to fail in life. If you're not trying, then if you're not failing, then you're not trying at all. And if you're going to fail magnificently, because it means you're going to keep pushing forward until you succeed at it.
I had a buddy, he used to say, if you're going to fall forward.
Yep.
You know, because at least, you know, just like you get to that end zone, you know, that extra couple yards, it's going to further your game.
Yep.
I just got, my dog started snoring pretty loud. So if that comes over, like, you know, I apologize in advance.
No, I couldn't hear nothing. But you know, I always tell people, celebrate your victories and learn from your failures. You got to learn from them. Now, if you keep failing, then that's a problem.
Right.
You know, but one of my mentors always says, if I'm gonna fail big.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something so big.
Do it right. Yeah.
That if I fail, I'm gonna fail on something big. I'm not gonna fail on something small, because when you fail on something small, you did not put your whole effort into it, right?
Exactly.
So when you fail, you fail something big. And I gotta say it this way, because when Kevin interviewed me while he was doing his paper, and the other elections that I ran, I told him I never lost. Why? Because every election I was able to educate some more people. So I didn't look at it as a loss. I mean, I looked at it as victory. Why?
Yeah.
Because now somebody else is thinking differently now.
Right.
You know,
spreads
so
like
it all depends
wildfire.
on how you see.
Yep.
You know, it depends on how you see. And bringing that up, now we can go to what we really was going to talk about now.
Oh boy.
Oh wow, we still haven't gotten to the main part
we
of
still
it.
ain't got to the meet and greet. So and on the show it says that we was going to talk about it. So we better talk about it before they call me a liar and I lose votes because we lied, you know. So we want to talk about, how do you see, or what do you want to see in 20? What she said, bring what?
Bring the party.
Bring the party. All right. What do you guys want to see in 2022? What's your vision? What do you want to see in going in this new year? Do y'all want to pause and think about it for a second? Or, you know, what do you want to see in 2022? And Liz, you can type yours up, Liz, of what you want to see, and I will post it up on there. And anybody that's watching that want to come on the show, and instead of typing, and you want to come on the show and share yours, we welcome you on the show to come on and be with us. I've been enjoying this, that we just now getting to the meat of the thing, and we've been talking about some of everything, but now we're going to talk about the meat. So what do you want to see in 2022?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, so it's so funny. The first thing that popped into my head when you asked that question was just the idea of basically what we were talking about. I want to see discourse. I want to see a return to civility. I mean, we can be mad at somebody else when we're in discussion, but we don't have to let that drive the conversation, right? I want us to start seeing people trying and failing forward or failing magnificently, right? I want to see our next generation start asking the questions that they need to ask. I mean, really, I want the older generations to start asking those questions, because we've sat for so long on our hands and we're missing out on something so valuable, and we're going to lose what matters the most. We're going to lose truth. We're going to lose our country, not the land, but the principles and the values, if we don't start asking questions, if we don't start trying and failing and trying again, right? You know, I know this is not it's not going to be easy. We got ourselves into this mess, and it usually takes a bit when it's muddy and we've dug the pit. We got to find the stuff to build the ladder and get out again. So it's going to hurt, but I want us to start facing that hurt and facing that pain and going, okay, but we're going to move past it by facing it and fighting for what's right and what's good. So, I mean, that's an overall view. That was the first thought that came to my head, but I really want us to see that discourse come back. I want us to start talking and asking questions. And I love my kids because they ask me a million questions a day. And there are some times when I'm just so exhausted, I'm just done with it. Right. But when they ask me those questions, it makes me think, okay, do I know the answer to this question? Because they're tough. They don't ask easy questions, but do I know the answer to this question? Could I give a reason for the hope that I have? Could I give a rational response to somebody who's going, well, what about what I feel? Right? It really makes me think. And I think our kids are such an amazing and bright future if we look at them as those potentials, right? And use you know how Jesus said, let the little children come to me. He wants us to be like little children. He wants us to ask those curious questions. He doesn't want us to just take everything that the adults say and just take it and swallow it. He wants us to push back. He wants us to come to him with our doubts and questions, and he expects that of us with our leaders, because the governments are under his authority. And so if we're made in his image, then we need to be doing what he would do. I mean, how many times did he confront governing authorities with questions, right? He was calling them out and asking, do you actually know what's true? Do you know what's right? And so that's really what I look forward to. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist, but there are days when I'm just discouraged at what I see. And then there are other days where I'm like, come Lord Jesus, bring revival, so there's just, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm excited for the journey, I think. So.
Okay. Kevin, before you say, let me throw Liz up. Ready?
Yeah.
This is what Liz says.
Amen.
She is fired up. So am I.
Yeah.
I got a good feeling. There's a tingling in my toes. It's not just because I've been sitting for an hour either. Building on what Sarah's saying, I want to see honest dialogues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see people telling each other what to think anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to challenge each other what they think, even if they end up just coming full circle back around to where they started.
Yeah.
And I really want people to sit back and ask themselves that question: what are they given to honor living? And that's, I mean, because everyone wants to look higher up for these answers, everything, and really it starts with us. It doesn't matter if you have the best job in the world or you're making $1 million a year,
Mm-hmm.
or it's where can you start? I love that phrase that the first step to taking control of things is cleaning your room. If you can't clean your room, then you are going to, have difficulty with everything else. And there's no scale or metric, stop comparing ourselves to each other. Because we're all on our different journeys.
Yeah.
That's a big one that I usually get because I'm 38 and they say, well, why don't you have kids? And it's like, well, it's sort of, that you're assuming that was my goal and intention this whole time. And it's like, you're walking that path and I'll walk mine and we'll all both be better for it. So I really want to see this next year. I want to see honest dialogue. I want to see people reach across to people that a year ago they would have nothing to say, or they would block them on social media. And sometimes it's going to be volatile. There is so much emotion and rage in people now, and it's, I didn't put that there, David didn't put that there, neither did Sarah. So I guess what I want to see people is realize that instead of reacting in an explosive manner to someone who may or may not be volatile, stand and let them blow up, and then when they're done, help them collect themselves. And that will go way further with people than any sort of politician speech or and the other thing the other thing I want to see is David King is my lieutenant governor.
Yes.
That's what we want to see happen. And because I really think that he brings that to the table. And I wouldn't just say it. I'm one of those people that if I don't believe something, it. And earlier Sarah was talking about how people just sort of smile and they get by and compromise. I usually don't. I'm sort of guilty across the face that, if you can walk into a room and you'll know exactly where I stand on things. But at the same time, that's not the correct way to be either. So I think as much as we want to point the finger at everywhere else, I think, what's the old phrase? When you point a finger, there's 3 more pointing back at you. And I think that that we need to address those things to where we're not pointing fingers, and we could admit to, well, we were supporting the wrong person, whoever that is, and not vilify one another. And because at the end of the day, these, like I had said previously, they treat us like an object that they take off the shelf every 2 to 4 years.
Yep.
And if I'm just something that sits on a dust because that's the only time I matter, you're not going to matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm going to go out to the people I see every day, and I'm going to make sure that I make them smile, or they can make me smile. And that's what I want to see, is that community brought back. I want to see people just feel good about themselves, and especially coming out of COVID and whatnot. It's even gotten worse as we got more and more detached from that. I think it sort of, that frustration and all these external forces and pressures that we're feeling are getting poured into that 240 character response. And it's just, it's too small of a container for all of that. And if you try to cram it through all at once, how do you expect to ever deal with it?
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to see. I want to see just open dialogue, honesty. I want to see people challenge their politicians. This I always use, and I'll refrain from using his name in this conversation, but there's a certain state representative, and I asked the question, sure, he might be father of the year, he might be a nice guy, but that is that nicety, is that persona exactly making the best decisions for us?
Right.
And you could be the nicest person in the world and not be able to accomplish anything.
Yeah.
And we got to start asking ourselves, and it's not saying anything negative about someone.
Yeah.
It's just being pragmatic in your approach, in what you're thinking, to say, well, maybe they aren't the best person. Maybe, but the supporters, they want to say, oh, he's such a nice person. And that goes back to people being so invested in things that they can't objectively look at the situation around them, let alone take criticism, and that's where I think, like, as we do our outreaches, we go out and we talk to these people, it's okay to criticize, but do so constructively and with passion and heart and understanding of that person. And because at the end of the day, there's still a person underneath all that. And just as you feel bad, they're going to feel bad. And that's really what I want to see, more humanity. That I could have said that in a single sentence and not 5 minutes, but it took me 5 minutes to get to that point.
Hey, I don't like
that's
240
good.
characters.
It took 5 minutes.
I don't like hearing things in 240 characters, so you did good.
So, one of the things that I want to see in 2022 is we go back to the petty fights. And what do I mean by that? My grass is greener than yours. My grandbaby picture is prettier than yours. Those kind of fights. But we can't go there yet until we clean up what we messed up. I want to see lions in office that doesn't mind taking the heat because they made a decision that's going to be beneficial to everybody and not a certain group of people. I want to see a school system go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. I want to see small businesses thriving again, because we know government doesn't create jobs, but we got to get government out the way so businesses can go ahead and create jobs. I want to see a state that reverence God. All right, that's what I want to see in Wisconsin. That's why I tell people, if we don't understand how America became a great nation, then all you have to do is look at God, because God made America a great nation, not the people, but because God gave principles and God gave direction. And I want to see, and what I am going to see is this: any politician in 2022 that talk dirt against another politician, I'm going to talk about them. And I'm going to expose them. Why? Because we don't need that right now. I mean, I'm very competitive. I played basketball. I played semi-pro basketball. I'm very competitive. All right. If you beat me, you beat me. But if you gotta cheat to beat me, and you gotta play, well, I mean, all in war, ain't no rules in war. You in war, but But a politician that got to talk about another politician so they can make themselves look good. I think it's time that we just start exposing them out. And the reason for it is, if they're doing that just to get in office, what they're going to do when they get there?
Yeah.
You know, we need people of integrity.
Yeah.
We need people of more. And when I say God, let me clear the air. We're not talking about taking the Bible and beating people upside the head with the Bible and everything like that. We're talking about just the principles of God, loving one another, not judging one another. But because Matthew 7 tells us not to judge, but also in that same chapter, it says you will know them by the fruit they bear.
Yep.
So in other words, you will know them by their character.
Yep.
All right. And if for example, we got elected officials already who's running for all kind of offices.
Yep.
Even in mayor of Milwaukee. Now, I never saw a tree change its fruit. An apple tree is always an apple tree. It doesn't change to an orange, right?
Yep.
So if we understand that, why would we elect somebody who thinking they're going to change their fruit?
Yeah.
From what they are right now, how they represented us right now, to giving them a promotion and they're gonna change. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
it's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not enough.
Well, and you know, like you said about the judging, like it says, judge not lest you be judged, but by the same measure that you judge others, you will be judged. So it isn't saying don't judge completely, because like you said, it goes back to you will know them by their fruit. But I don't remember anywhere in the fruit of the Spirit where it said nice. Like, I don't remember nice being in the fruit of the Spirit. There's patience, there's kindness, there's gentleness, there's self-control, but it's not nice to be those things, because the idea of like meekness is a great one, because it's talking about the ideas of these war horses, right? They've been trained for battle, and they will stand still when somebody is throwing bombs right under their feet, right? That is what meekness means. So you'll take the flames and arrows and you will stand firm and not run off and freak out and panic in the middle of war. We are in a battle for the soul of the people in our country, for the soul of the world. I mean, we were given a commission to go out and preach to all the nations, teaching them everything that I commanded them. Well, that's Jesus talking, right? When he says everything I command them, he's God. So all of the things back to Adam and Eve in the garden: be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over this earth, tend it, right? Those are commands from God. That's just as important as going out and giving people the gospel message of the cross. So we kind of like compartmentalize all of these different things, and we say, well, this is what matters more. This is more important than. No, if somebody is starving in the streets, they're not going to hear the gospel of Christ until you feed them, right?
Right.
So this is the type of attitude that we need to have. We as the body of Christ, or we with the moral compass, we need to be the ones out in the street leading the charge, being firm and solid in the battle and not running from the fight. And I feel like that's something I really want to see in 2022. Don't run from the fight. Right. We're not called to be nice.
And you know, it teaches us, it says love our neighbor, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I think we forget when it comes to loving our neighbors, that Democrat is our neighbor. We got to still love him.
Yep.
We might not like his ways or like the decisions he make.
Yep.
But he's still our neighbor. So we still got to love him.
Yep.
Right? We still got to, what we have done is we have allowed politics to make us go into a gang war.
Yeah.
You know,
complete with colors.
Yes.
Yes. You know, to the fact where we don't love one another. That's that. Now, watch this. If a person needs blood, right, and he's a Republican, he's not going to say, I don't want that Democrat blood. He's going to want that blood so he can live.
Yeah.
If he need a heart, he's not going to say, I only want a heart from a Republican. Don't give me a Democrat heart, right?
Yeah.
He's going to take that heart so he can live. So, so what we have to do is we got to stop allowing the enemy to divide us to the fact where, no, we have to come together and show the love that and love our neighbors, and says, you know what? I don't like the way you vote.
Yeah.
I don't like the policies that you hold, but I still gotta love you because I'm not gonna give. Can you imagine how much power that we're giving a party over us?
Yep.
Where we're so angry and hatred and bitter.
Yeah.
That means they control you.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
You know, we ain't got no business giving people that much power over us.
Yeah.
You talking about slavery? That's slavery when you allow somebody to control your emotions.
Yep.
Oh, that's a Democrat. I'd never vote. Oh, that's a Republican. I'd never vote. But I love God. Wait a minute. You can't love me because I got an R or a D behind my name?
Yeah.
But some people, that's how people have sort of voted the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you even got people out there that don't even pay attention to the races. And they say, well, I like his hair or I like his name, you know, and like, what sort of basis is that to choose anything, you know? And and then those same people are the ones sitting there like, well, I ain't getting what I want. Well, you know, what do you expect to get when you're being so shallow in what you're paying? And I shouldn't say shallow. Because a lot of people, and this is like what I found to be true, is some people just don't have the luxury to devote the time and the energy. They got wives, they got kids, they've got husbands, they've got elderlies that they're taking care of. They're working 3 jobs. I always like to look at things in terms of plates, and everyone's got a plate and it's only so big and holds so much, you know. And that's one of those things that, you know, the some of us who don't have as much on our plate, we sort of got to step up a little bit and maybe take some of that off, you know. And I guess if it's you just got to carry yourself in a way that allows for that and understand that not everyone has the same situation. And that's where a lot of people, they get caught up. Oh, wow. I got to put some water in my dog's water dish. She's going right for the toilet.
Oh, goodness gracious.
You know, we was out getting signatures today, and this man was like, I don't want to sign. So we were like, okay, and we just kept walking, right? He comes across the street, says, I'm sorry that I brushed y'all off real fast. Let me ask you one question. Because we was out getting signature for my wife running for county supervisor. He said, let me ask you what's question. What does she stand for? I said, she stands for less government. That's all I said. Oh, we on the same page. I'm so sorry I brushed you off. You know, and I'm sitting there and he was like, I should have just took time to listen. And that's what we all need to do. Just take a little time to listen and to find out what we all stand for. Find out what we all believe. Because we'll find out we got a lot of stuff in common with what we believe in. And if we just take the time to say, can I buy you a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Let's just talk.
Yep.
And we can agree to disagree, and I'm still gonna love you. I'll shovel your snow if it's snowing and you can't do it. I'm still gonna, you know. And the thing about it is, I tell people all the time, you will never be judged how people treat you. You will only be judged how you treat people.
Yep.
So we got a couple of minutes. So let's see. I'll let the lady go first. So I'm gonna let Kevin go first this time. Give us your final 2-minute thoughts on whatever you want to talk about for 2 minutes, and that should give you more than 240 words.
I'm just grateful to be here and actually in the time that we are right now, because I just am grateful for the voices out there in the minds that are, and it's not imposed. It's sort of just people have been sitting here long enough and they're coming about it under their own steam and power. It's not something, and that's what makes it such a genuine argument. You know, we could be talking about the same thing, but we're feeling it different ways. And I think that, like, if people can see that, it can, you know, really sort of break down some of those barriers. Like David is saying, there's so much we have in common with one another. And, you know, everyone's got a mother, everyone's got a father, everyone's got siblings that they don't get along with. And, you know, we all have our problems. And I think that a lot of people are just they've been fighting for so long that they just don't even know what they're mad about anymore. So it's like, and I have enough faith in people that when they get to that point, they start asking themselves why. And if they can ask themselves why, they can easily take the next step and then reach out to the next person and try to explain why, or hear them and then maybe incorporate that into what, you know, their understanding of things are. And I think if we really just hunker down and just start engaging with and show some love and understanding, it might not come out right the first time, but that's okay. We know you're well-meaning. We know that you're trying to do good things, and we just got to let people just do that and grow into it themselves. Whatever that looks like. I truly feel like 2022 and going forward from here, we're on the cusp of something different.
Yeah.
And we can either be spiteful, angry, PO'd individuals, or we can go the other way with that. And that choice is ours. It's not up to a politician. It's not up to big corporations and narratives. I mean, though they will try to influence us, people are tired of that. And I know I'm not the only one, because I have this conversation all the time with people, and they're expressing themselves in their view of how things got to where they are. And it's one of those things that they're not wrong. No one is wrong in this, because we've all just been living our lives, and we're all going to have different perspectives on what happened, different outcomes. And I really, this is the year to open up and start engaging with people.
Yeah.
So that's my shtick.
Okay. Sarah?
Okay, so I guess I've got so many things to say, but I'll try to boil it down. So, you know, obviously, two points, just on the things that are unchangeable, the principles, the values. Let's stay strong. Let's stand firm on them. Let's not run from the fight. But when it comes to those changeables, somebody told me once when I was first married, when you're arguing with your husband, argue in pencil so you can go back and erase as necessary, right? And rewrite. And so for those changeables where it's just differences of opinion, where it's, you know, my feelings versus your feelings or whatever, let's start talking as if it's not, those aren't hard facts that we're going to die on, right? Yeah. Let's talk about them as if we're writing in pencil, and we can go back and rewrite and erase and do what we need to do to edit. And then we can stand firm on our principles, but like you were saying, Kevin, we can compromise in areas that need compromise, that we can agree to disagree, or we can say, you know what, you changed my mind on that. You altered my opinion on that. Thank you. You know, you gave me a different way of looking at the world. So yeah, so that's my big thing is, you know, there are unchangeable values, and we should never compromise on those things. But when it comes to living in community, to learning from one another, to growing, let's rest on that. Let's not go into that type of a fight with arms raised and fists clenched. And let's approach it in a different way. Let's know the difference between the two, so that we're not getting them confused, and we're not constantly dividing ourselves on the things that don't matter. So that's
absolutely, yeah, well said.
Wow. Okay. So I just want to say, you know, to everyone that's been watching, we thank you guys from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Jacob, thank you for your comment off of YouTube.
That's my husband.
That's your husband?
That's my husband, yeah.
Go Team Peliquin.
Woo! Oh, no. Wait a minute. I just caught that. I didn't even catch that. Wow. Yep. All right.
I'm married up.
Where you at, in the back?
What?
Where you at, in the back room?
He's in the living room with the kids. I think they're watching on the TV.
Oh, okay. And so you guys, I mean, I'm just grateful for everyone that's been watching and everything. You know, I too, my toes is not tingling, but I do have a spirit of excitement right now going into 2022, because we got 8 months to convince Wisconsin that we can have our state back. You know, we got 8 months to tell people it's okay to fight back. You know, it's okay to stand up. You're not wrong standing up. You know, we got 8 months to let them know, okay, this is do or die. Either you do it now or that's it. You know, I would say the other thing, but you know, we on thing where either by you own what's the word? You own the pot, you either or get up, you know. So
Yeah.
you know, hey, how y'all doing?
Hi. Good.
And so, you know, so I'm just grateful, you know, to everybody, and so I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody,
Happy New Year.
and let this year be a prosperous year, a blessed year, a year of freedom being restored, a year of restoration, restoring our freedom and restoring our education system. Hello, beautiful. Restoring our education system and everything. So, you guys, I want you guys to set your schedule for next week, Wednesday at 9 o'clock, the first show of the new year. We're going to have some more people on with us, and we're going to rock and roll.
Sounds good.
And to all that have been watching, I want to say to you, we love you guys. Have a blessed new year. And I'll close it like I always close it. Hi, I am Dr. David King, and I am your next Lieutenant Governor. God bless.
Take care.
Bye.
Wait.